Right now with the details is Tennessee Republican Senator Bill Hagerty, who is the lead sponsor of the bill. Good morning to you. A lot of crypto
Good morning,
folks
Andrew.
Going to be watching this.
See you.
How did just take us sort of full back to the beginning on this? How did this even come about, and what does this actually do for folks who don't know?
It's actually born from a great deal of frustration. We started working on the bill in earnest back in the fall. But we've watched what's happened with the absence of any type of regulatory framework here in America. And what we see is this type of innovative technology moving offshore. The last thing I want to see is that. I don't want to see innovation leaving America. It's all happening here right now. But what we saw was a lack of regulatory framework, which means a lack of certainty. And if you're using, enforcement actions from the SEC, which was what has been happening for the past 4 years, to regulate the markets, it creates massive amounts of uncertainty. This will fix it.
So, but in terms of just understanding how this bill works and what it does, what is it?
It basically establishes a legal and regulatory framework to issue stable coins here in America. Stable coin is stable, meaning it's backed by a certain currency. In this case, it's tied to the U.S. dollar, but also it's backed either by cash or by short-term U.S. Treasury securities. So it's entirely safe. Having that type of regulatory framework and disclosure around it so we know exactly what's backing up these digital dollars, if you will, is going to be great.
Because what was happening before was the SEC would issue something that basically just scared people, wouldn't tell them what works. They would go after enforcement actions after things that they didn't like, and that left the entire industry saying, what are we allowed to do, what are we not?
But this is a payment mechanism, and not to be confused with Bitcoin or something that has a speculative component. This puts us into a digital payment framework, the fastest rails available, much better than the system developed in the 70s and 80s, which is slow. It takes days to clear.
So the issue, as far as I have always understood the stablecoin issue, is what is backing this stuff, and how much of it's backed by actual treasuries versus cash versus equities or something else. What does this say about all of that?
It's not going to be equities. It's going to be high-quality, short-term assets, either short-term short-term U.S. Treasuries or cash. I think the majority of it will be U.S. Treasuries. In fact, what this will do, and the projections are by 2030, this is according to Citibank, stablecoin issuers will be the largest holders of U.S. Treasuries in the world.
Who has been fighting this?
Well, the people that like centralized currencies. This is a decentralized concept. Where you register with the various.
No, but I'm so interested in terms of who was trying to get meetings with you for the last year to say, please, this is a terrible idea.
No one in the industry is doing that.
Of course not.
It has to do with my colleagues. And basically, it's gotten to be a question, and we'll find out tonight. We have broad policy agreement, Democrats and Republicans. The question is, can we get past the partisan politics and allow us to actually have a victory? I would enjoy having a bipartisan victory.
So there's nobody in the industry who's saying this is a bad idea?
No.
So the only people who are saying it's a bad idea to you thus far are, you're saying, just other politicians? For what reason, though?
It's politicians that want to see centralized control.
Right.
And, a centralized control, if you want that, buy the digital yuan. I don't want to see that happen here in America. I think it would be devastating for the dollar's value as the reserve currency. This will actually perpetuate the dollar's value as a reserve currency. It will extend that momentum. It's going to extend demand for U.S. Treasuries. There's a lot to like about this.
Senator, what do you think of the Moody's downgrade of the U.S. credit rating? I mean, I realize they're the third to do it. I realize it's been years in the making. But it does have an impact in the markets today.
It is having an impact. You're exactly right. I think it puts more pressure on us as well over the next couple of weeks to get this reconciliation bill done in a way that's responsible and shows real progress against the deficit.
Meaning progress against the deficit immediately, not in 2029 or later.
I'd certainly like to see it sooner. I'd certainly like to see it sooner, and so would my colleagues in the Senate.
Do you agree with Scott Bessent when he says doesn't matter?
Do you mean the deficit? Scott's working very hard to make our revenue grow faster.
Sure, but he said the credit rating downgrade over the weekend. He said, who cares? I think that was actually what he said.
I think he said it was backward looking.
Scott's perspective on the market is born from his experience. I'll just say the immediate impact is real, but I think the market's going to digest this. The other rating agencies had already put us at this place. But what I want to see is the reconciliation package come through, stimulation of capital investment. That capital investment will beget more jobs, more economic activity. That's going to be good for revenue growth.
Will you vote for something that doesn't cut the deficit more quickly?
Well, I think what we get in the Senate is going to be completely different. I don't want to negotiate on air how we're going to land on this, but my colleagues in the Senate want to see significant cuts.
How do you feel about tariffs right now?
I think it's coming much more clear, Andrew. What we have is a system that's a result of, you go back to the post-World War II era. We put in place very favorable terms of trade. Countries like those in Europe, Japan. Their economies were devastated. But we should have put a GDP per capita or a time limit on those. We didn't. So we wind up with these gross imbalances. For example, you build a car here in America, sell it to Europe, 10% tariff. They build one there, sell it to us, 2.5%. We'd never do that deal today. So this sort of reciprocity is sorting itself out. We've had a deal struck with the UK. We're in a good place with China.
Okay, let me ask you the harder question. The harder question is, you are a merchant in the United States. Do you pass on the costs or not? You saw what the president had to say yesterday to Walmart.
Well, I think that assumes that tariffs all go up. And in certain circumstances, just use the car example I give you, perhaps they come down. But to the extent there is an increase, you've got the producer, you've got the shipper, you've got the middleman, the retailer, and you've got the consumer. All of them may bear some of that. But it's not a certainty to me at all that that's where we're going to head. We could head to lower tariffs around the board.
You think ultimately, no, but I'm saying in the short term right now.
Oh, I understand. In the short term, I think.
In the short term, if Walmart decides that they have to raise their prices, do you think that that's un-American effectively?
I think Walmart's going to have to make its decision, but Walmart has the broadest base of American clients there is, and I think they're going to be very careful about how they do this. I know that they've received some criticism from the president. I think they need to think hard. Also, the president's been, and should, they should know, the president's been working very hard with China to make sure we get this thing addressed as quickly as possible.
Okay. Senator, thank you.
Thank you.
We wish you lots of luck with everything. Come on back.
Thank you.
Thanks.